For 100 years, she waited. A shadow among the ruins, a whisper in the wind, a lingering sorrow in the cold moonlight. She was once Lillian Devereaux, a woman of beauty and grace, betrayed by the one she loved most. But love, when turned to vengeance, is a force darker than death itself. And so, she remained. Watching, waiting, until the time for retribution came. In the autumn of 1923, Lillian was the most desired woman in Blackwood Manor, a grand estate nestled deep in the misty valleys of England. Men from noble families sought her hand, but her heart belonged to only one, Jonathan Whitmore, a man of charm, wit, and deceit. He swore eternal love, made promises under the starlit sky, and sealed them with stolen kisses. Lillian believed him. She dreamed of a future where they would escape to a world of their own, far from the wealth-driven ambitions of their families. But love is cruel. On the eve of their elopement, Lillian stood in her white gown, a candle flickering in her trembling hands. She waited by the old oak tree, their secret place. Hours passed. The candle melted. The cold seeped into her bones. But Jonathan never came. Instead, the next morning, the town rejoiced at the grand wedding of Jonathan Whitmore and Eleanor Hastings, the daughter of a powerful noble. Betrayed, shattered, destroyed. In her grief, Lillian fled to the cliffs, where the waves crashed violently against the rocks. Her wails were lost in the wind as she plunged into the abyss, but death was not the end. As the tides carried her lifeless body away, something darker, something unnatural took root in the world. Lillian Devereaux did not rest. Her love had been pure, but her vengeance would be eternal. The night after Jonathan and Eleanor's wedding, a chilling mist crept through Blackwood Manor. A whisper floated through the halls, echoing like a dying breath. Jonathan, the mirrors cracked. Candles flickered. The air turned frigid. Jonathan dismissed it as guilt. But then, he saw her, pale as the moon, drenched in the water that had swallowed her. Lillian stood at the foot of his bed. Her eyes, once filled with love, were now hollow, dark voids of sorrow and wrath. "Did you think death would keep me away, my love?" Jonathan screamed. But before he could move, the room fell into darkness. The servants found him the next morning, unconscious, his hair turned white overnight. That was just the beginning. For years, the manor suffered. Crops withered. Livestock died. A child was born lifeless on a cold winter night. And every time the mist rolled in, a woman's weeping filled the air. One by one, the Whitmore family perished. Some in their sleep, some lost to madness, some vanishing without a trace. Until only Jonathan remained, a broken man, haunted by the past. But even after Jonathan died, the curse lingered. Time passed, decades turned to a century. The world changed, yet Lillian remained. She haunted the ruins of Blackwood Manor, a ghostly figure seen by those foolish enough to wander too close. She watched lovers who walked hand in hand, whispering sweet nothings, just as she once had. And every time she saw a man make a promise, a vow of eternal love, her rage stirred. She would not be free until her vengeance was complete. Until a love as treacherous as hers suffered the way she had. In the year 2023, Blackwood Manor was but a forgotten relic, an abandoned mansion shrouded in ghostly tales. But when historian Daniel Whitmore, a direct descendant of Jonathan, arrived to document his family's history, the past awakened. He did not believe in ghosts, but Lillian believed in fate. From the moment Daniel stepped into the ruins, he felt it, the chill that seeped into his skin, the whispers in the wind, the sensation of unseen eyes watching him. And then, he saw her. She stood at the top of the grand staircase, her white gown billowing in the windless air, her eyes locked onto his. Not just any eyes, Jonathan's eyes. Daniel felt his heart stop. "You carry his blood," she whispered, her voice laced with a century's worth of sorrow. That night, his dreams were filled with visions, memories not his own. He saw a woman in white, waiting under an oak tree, love turning to devastation. He felt the icy embrace of the ocean, the bitterness of betrayal. He woke up gasping, and then he heard her voice. "You must pay for his sins." Daniel was not Jonathan. He had never betrayed anyone. But Lillian did not care. He was the last Whitmore, the last tie to the man who had broken her heart. She wanted him to suffer. Yet, something changed. As she watched him, as she whispered to him in the dead of night, as she haunted his dreams, she felt something she had not felt in 100 years. She felt warmth. Daniel was not like Jonathan. He was kind, gentle, and full of regret for the sins of his ancestors. He did not mock her pain. He mourned it, and, for the first time in a century, Lillian wavered. Could she still love? Could she still forgive? Or was she forever doomed to be a spirit of vengeance, One stormy night, Daniel stood at the cliffs where Lillian had died. The waves roared below. Just as they had 100 years ago, Lillian appeared beside him, her form flickering like candlelight. "End it," she whispered. He turned to her. "I don't want to die. Then make me believe love is not a lie." Daniel reached out, his hand passing through hers, yet she felt it, warmth, human, alive. And for the first time, she wept. Not for vengeance, not for hatred, but for the love she had lost. As dawn broke, the mist lifted from Blackwood Manor. The curse faded. The whispers ceased. And Lillian Devereaux, the ghost of sorrow and wrath, was finally free. Some say Blackwood Manor is still haunted. Some claim to see a woman in white, standing by the cliffs, watching the sunrise, but if you listen closely, you won't hear weeping. You'll hear laughter, for after 100 years, love had conquered death.